But it's one of those things, like, Chris, like, when you're thinking about running and you're seeing the things that elected officials are saying, people on the campaign trail, I mean, this has to be like a giant reason for why you're deciding to run. I know it's a big reason for why I started doing the podcasting, but tell everyone a little bit about yourself, your journey to running for Congress. Just, lay it on us, man.
Yeah, well, I moved here to North Carolina in 2008. I am a college professor in psychology, and being a state employee, I have seen that I have not gotten any significant raises for the last 12 years that I've been employed here. I'm actually making less now than I was when I was back in 2008 starting out.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I know, but I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, it's
right?
Obviously, hey, that's the way it goes. And, North Carolina doesn't tend to take care of its state employees, especially its teachers. And, of course, when you talk community colleges, we are especially the lowest on the totem pole then of the importance. But, as I was here in North Carolina, when I first moved here, I noticed that it was a pretty progressive state. It was kind of purple. It was there was some liberal thinking, some progressive thinking, and then Barack Obama won in 2008, and this state just went way right. And that I was still okay. I was like, all right, everything will be all right. We'll make it through. But then Trump happened. And certainly after 2010 as well, the Tea Party came in, and just these extremists on the right were taking over everything here in North Carolina. They had super majorities in both houses. It was unbelievable. What the
was
kinds
it that
of things
sudden? Was it really like that? Was it like
it
one
was.
election, or was it just like fine extremism?
It was to me, and I mean, I'm no expert on the movements of it, but it certainly seemed like it was pretty quick around 2010. It was just this big, quick shift because apparently before I even moved here, Democrats ruled the roost for the longest time around here. But then, of course, I move here and it all falls apart. But
it's a weird coincidence, isn't it?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. But the thing was that 2016 happened. My son is 3 years old now. He was actually born the day after the election. Obviously, being a Democrat and liberal-minded and progressive, I was quite distraught at the thoughts of losing another Supreme Court justice and all of the other extremist things that were going to start coming from a president like Donald Trump. And I was just distraught, but then I was also had like one of the greatest days of my life with my son being born. And he had to end up in the NICU. He was about almost 6 weeks early. We had to take him down to the NICU, and my wife had some health issues as far as giving birth overall. And so what ended up happening is that she had to kind of stay up in the room, and I got to go down to the NICU with my son. And as I was sitting there, I was looking at my son, and I was the first person to really hold him and feed him and do the skin-to-skin stuff that you're supposed to do with newborns and things. And I was loving life, but I still had this thought in my head, like, this is just wrong. This is not the way it's supposed to be. And I remember distinctly saying to my son, my brand newborn son, hours old, I said, you got to fix this, man. I'm sorry, but you've got to fix this. And, I very quickly after that, when we got home around Thanksgiving, that I started to say, you know what, this is an unbearable burden to put on the next generation of kids. I mean, what am I doing to make the changes that are necessary? And so I decided to get more involved in the Onslow County Democratic Party, the county that I live in currently. I ran for chair at that 2017 convention. I lost that election because nobody knew who I was. But then an opening came up for a vice chair position, and I ended up as the second chair, and I'm currently the third vice chair of the Onslow County Democratic Party. And so I thought, well, that's a good first step. But there was always something pulling me inside saying, you know what, you need to do more. You need to actually do something. You have to be the person that makes that change. You need to run for office. But, being a full-time employee, state employee, having a young child, and then I just had my daughter about 6 months ago. And so, it's,
Congratulations.
oh, well, thank you. That it really, especially when she was born, it really reiterated to me that I have to do something. I have to run. I have to make a change in some way. And although it's a blood red district here, that I really think I've got a chance because, I'm not a politician. I'm not somebody that's going to go out there and tell you what I don't actually know. That I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try and do what I think is best. That would make the world a better place for my kids. They're my why. Like I know it's cliched, but those kids. I mean, looking at them, I'm like, man, we have to change this stuff, and I can't wait for them to do it.
It changes everything. I mean, Bill and I have talked
Yeah.
all the time about in the show how having kids really, you can't be selfish. You can't look short-sighted because we are handing this
Mm-hmm.
world off to them. And I think it's interesting because the story that you tell is a story that you hear so many people talk about. People our age, I think, because Chris, you and I go way, but we know each other a very long time, and we never talked all that much about politics, maybe a little bit, but it was one of those things to where like we cared a lot about people because we wouldn't have gone into psychology if we didn't care about people.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were equally both frustrated with some of the BS, the bureaucracy of our university and our programs, and we both had the same idea of like, you know what, I'm just going to get out while the getting is good. But and you and I were very similar in that matter, which I think a lot of people, but we didn't really talk much about it. But we see people like our age where they get to the age where they're in their careers, they have children, then all of a sudden you can't ignore things anymore. And when you can't look at yourself
Right.
in a mirror and go, I care so much, not only can I not stop thinking about it, I'm either going to go on Facebook, pass memes around, rile people up, or I'm going to do something about